Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks, the podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today, we're talking about demystifying your tax return and the relief that comes with seeing real results.
Income is taxable, cash flow is plannable. So the way that you set these things up really matters.
How do I know what you're showing me is actually going to happen come tax time? Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Good. I'm excited to be here. I feel like it's been a little while.
I know. I'm excited for our conversation because we are going to show some real Terra Firma results today. We are talking about your tax return and what you get to see when you go through our discovery process at Terra Firma, and better yet, the other side of that journey once your real tax results roll in. So we want to give you a sneak peek of what you can experience. So obviously people come to us, they're very frustrated with what they've paid, but oftentimes they don't really understand what their tax return is telling them and what is causing these high taxes and what can be done about it. So when you come into Terra Firma Discovery, Bob will walk you through your tax return and show you what is causing those taxes. So you also get an estimate of what we can help you save. And what do we hear almost all the time when we show people their results? Do you know that, Joe?
No, I'm waiting.
We hear two things. One, that looks amazing, but that seems too good to be true. If I had a dime for every time we hear the words too good to be true. But the second is a question that's, well, how do I know what you're showing me is actually going to happen come tax time? That is really, I think, the biggest question that we see. And you always say, like, trust has to be both given and earned. You need to give us a little bit of trust in this process, and then we can earn it more and more along the way as we walk you through. So I've actually got a couple of examples to show here. And afterwards, I want to hear from you, Joe, about your experience, because our listeners might not know, but you were actually a client of Bob's before you were a partner in Terra Firma. So he changed your world. So I'd love to hear, your perspective on that. So let's just look. I put together two examples. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple, you might need to go over to YouTube to actually see this. So I have two examples pulled up. The left side shows you what we show you in Discovery with your estimated tax savings. And now that our results are rolling in, we can show you the other side of it, where we will walk you through, here's what last year looked like, here's what this year would have looked like had you not worked with us, but here's your tax savings. So we won't spend too much time on this, but when you do get into Discovery, we will share, your marginal rate, your effective rate, what the heck is, taxable income versus total income, or QBI, or are you on the Schedule C, and what does that mean for your audit risk? Like, people just learn so much even in that 10 minutes. But in this case, this is two physicians, husband and wife, who are W-2. We showed them that we could save them $89,000, and we came just short, but it was $88,000 there, and they were thrilled. And then this one, again, we walked them through what all these different numbers mean. We showed them an estimated tax savings of almost $155,000, and they ended up making a little bit more. So the tax savings was higher too, at $176,917 plus $30,000. Actually, in both these cases, $30,000 from state, because everything we do on a federal level will show on the state return as well. And the pink lines here show what this looks like, tangibly speaking. So, in the past, you got this small refund, or had you not worked with us, you would have owed another $48,000. But instead, you're getting this $129,000 tax return into your bank account to now deploy into assets to not only grow wealth, but to create even more tax savings for the year ahead. So
Well, if I can just pause here real quick, Erin.
yeah.
So you're saying on the left-hand side of this screen is what we had estimated with them while they were in discovery.
Yep.
And then on the right-hand side was the actual effect after joining membership and having our team do the work that they're doing. So I think that's important for people to understand. We try to be as conservative as we can during the discovery process, but reflecting actual reality. And I do love that our asset and tax team has become very accurate, over all the time that we've spent doing this. We're getting increasingly better
Yeah.
at being predictive in that. So, 2 decades of experience will help with that.
Absolutely. So talk to us about your before and after with, I know we've mentioned this on the podcast in the past, but of course we have a lot of newer listeners. You owned a business with a partner and you guys were in the dark really about your taxes and you'd gone through a few different CPAs and then you found Bob. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you used a really good term, demystifying. And I think it's one of those things that I think just Americans in general are afraid of the IRS, because it's like there's a meme or a joke about it. It's like, the agency that tells you owe us money.
Yeah.
And
How much? You figure it out.
Yeah, you figure it out. And if you get it wrong, you go to jail. It's like there's this fear about this.
Totally.
And then people use terms, or they see content in the world that's like, oh, if you do this, then you can save this much in taxes and you can pay your kids and you can all this kind of stuff that we see on TikTok and Instagram and all those things. And it feels very mysterious to people, myself included. And I felt like, and it was not just taxes, it was accounting and taxes that I was tremendously frustrated by.
Mm-hmm.
We had an accounting team that charged us like $26,000, and we were not like a giant company.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember at the time being like, well, I guess that's just what we got to pay. Like, I couldn't believe it. That was just for accounting. That was not our taxes.
Wow.
And then when I ran across Bob, I was basically like, hey, do you think we'd be a good fit for your membership? And I mean, Bob, everyone knows Bob on this channel. He was like, well, let's talk and see. Right. So, had a conversation with him. And it was really the first time that I began to understand not just what was going on, but why it was going on, why the frustration existed. And I know we've done other videos on this channel talking about why we always file extensions for our members. I did not understand that at the time. So as much as the actual impact of the work and demystifying things, Bob also took the time to explain to me why things were happening. So I was really frustrated by our team because I was like, hey, how much do we owe? Why can't you give me this number? Like, what is going on? Like, I couldn't understand it. And not that we give that number sooner in the year, Bob helped me understand why we were doing what we were doing. So I think that element of demystifying the tax return is a gigantic benefit. We talk about on this channel, like helping people build generational wealth. Most of us were never given an education on how the tax system worked, all that kind of stuff. So I think our members, I can't wait for 70 years from now when our members' grandchildren's grandchildren, or I don't know what it's going to be at that point, but when they get to be the beneficiary of these people who come onto this channel, listen to us talk about these things, decide to take action in their life and do something differently, the generational impact of that decision cannot be overstated how impactful it is. So I cannot wait to hear those stories. We were on a call with one of the members, I think this was 2 weeks ago, and we were doing work on their estate plan. And they were talking about introducing us to their daughter, because at some point she's going to take over. Their daughter's 9 years old right now.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So it's like they understand we have our team. We have our people that are going to be here to take care of things. So I think Bob's, generosity in the way that he educates people to demystify what's going on. So for me, that's what happened, was not just like the technical aspects, but also the mindset around those things. So I think probably one of the things that our members really appreciate being in membership is that education that's going on.
Absolutely. We brought on new members just yesterday, a husband and wife who have 4 adult children. And the wife said, our kids need this. And I said, that's something we hear often from members. Like, not only am I learning so much, but now I will be able to teach it all to my kids or show them, you don't know what you don't know, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. So now you can pass it along to the future generations and help them be set up so much earlier than you were. And in that conversation with that couple last night, I was telling them like how an ideal member feels about us. And because we talk about how we're not just getting you tax savings, but we're really getting you peace of mind. But when it comes back to this question of like, well, how do I know that's really going to happen? Or it's too good to be true. Honestly, some of the people who we talk to and like before discovery usually, but they can't get past that. They just can't get past like, I'm too skeptical. I can't do it. And I said that fear, but that excitement, it has this like wrestling in your body, but we want you to be more on the excitement side. And those are our ideal members who are curious and excited about everything we're going to be able to show them. Mm-hmm. And then what we just showed you today is the result of that. And it's so fun to be able to deliver that. Right. So,
well, living in reality around this, the truth is like every year is going to go by and the decisions that you make throughout that year impact cash flow, income, taxes, all of it. As Bob talks about a lot is cash flow is, income is taxable, cash flow is plannable. So the way that you set these things up really matters. And one of the questions that we ask, I know like on Instagram and Facebook often is, have you ever had a strategic tax plan? And we get nobody who says yes. Like everyone is just kind of operating in this vacuous space and like, I don't know, I guess it's just such a crazy thing to have the impact that it has on your life. Think about it, Doc. Like you make all this money and probably your biggest expense, I'm guessing probably without exception, is taxes. And yet there's no training around it. You have no idea this like vacuous space that exists. And I'm like, this does not make sense. So what I appreciate probably most about our members who do move forward, like you said, there might be fear, there might be trepidation, there might be anxiety, or there might be excitement, all of that. Even though that's going on, they've made the decision that I'm going to do something different. Like something's going to change because I'm going to make it change. And that's usually the welcome message that I send to individually to them is, my favorite quote is, nothing moves unless you do. And so I think we all have to analyze that. If there's something, and this, by the way, applies to so much more than just your tax situation, in your physical life, in your spiritual life, in your marriage, in your relationship with your kids, like nothing moves unless you do. Take an opportunity to do something about it, especially in those areas where you do feel frustration. Like do something different.
And isn't that how life goes with usually the most exciting things that we do, whether it's proposing marriage or starting a business or even going on a trip across the world and you're like, how's it going to work out? But there's so much excitement there. Like you can either sit here and do nothing or you can go do it and face the unknown a little bit. But like everything you want is on the other side of that fear. So what does this look like, tangibly speaking, for those who are listening? We start with a cash flow recovery conversation. We always want to run some numbers in the beginning to even see if it makes sense, to talk membership. If we can save you 100,000 or more, the one I showed was a little borderline, but of course they were still thrilled to have $88,000 that they didn't have before. But we want to see a 6-figure tax savings. Then if you go through discovery with us, it comes with a money back guarantee. We're going to have 2 calls together. We're going to talk about your milestone goals. Like what are your biggest goals? Where are you headed? And when we can show you that we can save you all this money in taxes, you're going to hit those goals so much faster. And then what I showed on my screen, again, if you're just listening, you should come over to YouTube and look at that because that's what you're going to get to see in discovery. And then if you move forward in membership, once tax time comes, we are able to show you the black and white difference, that our planning makes. So I feel like if you're frustrated with your 6-figure plus tax bill, what have you got to lose? We're going to be able to show you and educate you in this process. And we would love to do that. So Joe, thank you so much.
How does somebody do that, Erin?
Well, they can find us at terrafirmaconsultant.com. You can follow us on Instagram and you can book a meeting with us via any of our links. We'll drop a link below as well to get on our calendar. All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here, Doc. Share with your friends, hit subscribe. And until next time, go be a wealth maverick.